They say you don't call on Google Hangouts, you don't speak into the mic, you don't go respond to those work emails, and you don't mess around with Jim. Do it out deep. Man, I hope those references don't go out of touch as the show goes on. Like, they're getting on like almost 5-6 years old now. If you've been to community long enough. But welcome, Turntable episode 9. It's me. It's Brooklyn. I'm the host for the moment. At the moment, Andrew and Mr. Producer Man are currently in contract disputes over how the show is going to go on for the next little bit. So once they're done arguing, they'll come in. But yeah, we have a very exciting panel today. Some really, really good albums. There were some takes that for these albums that I didn't think that were possible. We'll get into them later. But we'll go into introduce our panel, starting off with Adelaide. Adelaide, what album did you bring today?
I picked Vertigo by Griff.
Yeah. Also joining us today is Melissa Woody. Melissa, how you doing? And
Hello.
What album did you pick?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. I chose Meddle by Pink Floyd, and yeah, Pink Floyd's my favorite band of all time, and I think this is somewhat underrated for them, so I wanted to bring it today.
Okay, cool. And also joining us, we haven't seen him here on a long time. I think it's been since we did the set list many moons ago, and that is Andy Merryweather. Andy, how you doing? And what album did you pick today?
I brought British singer-songwriter Passenger and the album Whispers. It's his 5th studio album, but the second one after he kind of blew up, where all the little lights went crazy with Let Her Go. And I think it's interesting to talk about like how someone follows up such a success.
Yeah. I'll briefly mention the album that Andrew had picked. He picked Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues with the London Festival Orchestra. I know that one of the songs in this album was on his top 500 songs of all time. So I understand where that comes from. And then my album, I picked Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. I've just been kind of going back to albums that I had originally just songs that I wasn't really enjoying because they were getting so much radio play and so much repetition. And now now that it's had kind of a few years to kind of digest, going back and just realizing how great some of these are. But yeah, for those of you who haven't watched the show before, how it's going to work is we're all going to go through our albums. We're going to give a favorite and a least favorite, give a rating out of 10. And then at the end of it, we're all going to give our favorite albums. And hopefully you guys find a new favorite in this selection here. I think we have a really good mix. We're going to start off with Melissa, and we're going to go into Meddle by Pink Floyd. A surprisingly good pick. But yeah, tell us more about it.
Surprisingly, okay. Yeah.
You suck, Melissa.
Apparently, geez. No, yeah. Kind of like I said at the top, Pink Floyd's been my favorite band for essentially my entire life. And I knew I was going to be fairly busy when you all asked me to be on the show. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with something that I know fairly well, which is, Meddle by Pink Floyd. This album I really enjoy because I feel like each song kind of just brings a different vibe and different kind of like experience. Yet it all really like jives together really well and flows really well. Also, in college I wrote a essay on echoes, and I had to write an essay on a song I love and a song I hate. And I chose Echoes by Pink Floyd, and then I versus Taylor Swift, You Belong to Me. So that was an experience.
Oh.
Why we get why you love Taylor Swift, but why do you hate Echoes? I thought it was
yeah. At the time I was living with my cousin, and that particular Taylor Swift song was on all the time, and it was the bane of my existence. But anyways, going back to Meddle, I think the lyrics throughout are just super rich. It's not necessarily an album I like revisit all the time. I feel like I frequented more like during my college years, but it's just one that's really stuck with me. over time. And yeah, I guess spoiler alert, my favorite song on this album is Echoes. It's actually my favorite song of all time. So hopefully you guys liked it. We'll see. It's okay if you don't though, because it is long. It's 23 minutes long. Also, specifically, if you haven't checked it out, they did a live at Pompeii version of this song. Oh my god, incredible! I wish I could have been there. Yeah, I mean, it has some of my favorite lyrics. Strangers passing in the street by chance, two separate glances meet, and I am you, and what I see is me. That's just beautiful. I kind of feel like this entire album puts me kind of in a trance, and specifically that song. I feel like I kind of go on this spiritual journey every time I listen to it. So yeah, so that's definitely my favorite. Probably my least favorite, but I mean, I love all the songs. It's probably Seamus. It's kind of, I would say, objectively the weakest of the bunch, with the dog, but it's a fun time. It's a very lighthearted song in the mix of kind of the rest of what's going on. And then yeah, this is easily 10 out of 10 for me. So.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So I'll go next here. I remember whenever we did your episode of Setlist, Melissa, we were talking, and Pink Floyd, you mentioned, and I was going through their discography, and this is one that I had skipped. So when you brought this up, it's oh, cool, we can actually fill in some of the gaps. And when I mentioned surprising, what I meant was I didn't think that it was going to go this hard into country. I didn't think that was in Pink Floyd's back pocket to kind of have the more slide guitar, kind of that that outlaw kind of style. It does a really good job of it though in terms of the arrangement. We were talking about last month with Radiohead. Radiohead did a really good job of that opening track, kind of establishing the sound that they're known for, and then kind of going off of that. And I get that with this album. One of these days is kind of your standard kind of bread and butter Pink Floyd songs, and then it gets into A Pillow of the Winds, and you get that more slide guitar. Then you get Fearless, and Fearless is a really cool track. It reminds me, and this is gonna sound weird, but it reminds me it kind of how the sound the songs from or the sound kind of from SpongeBob, I guess, that weird kind of
yeah, I get it,
a weird kind of country. Yeah, it's just the vibe that I got. It's they're in a SpongeBob movie. It's the start of the second act. They figured out where they need to go after the first conflict, and now it's kind of a montage as they travel into this this new weird kind of area. I thought it was really cool. You were talking about echoes. I'm a sucker for those long kind of instrumentals. They could have this really cool kind of drive to them. Especially if you're out on the road, just kind of just enjoying the view of everything and whatnot. But yeah, I thought this is a really cool album. I like when bands try to have different branches off of their own sound, and I thought they did really well with this. But we'll go to Andy next. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not that well versed with Pink Floyd at all. Although I just haven't been exposed to them, and I don't tend to listen to music that I don't already know. But I do trust Melissa immensely on all things. So I was really excited to do, and I'd had that I need to get into Pink Floyd because I knew it was her favorite band and important to her. So I kind of went into this one cold, and I don't know if this is the best album because it feels like it's one of those that's in the context of knowing the rest of the stuff. But sonically, it felt like how I expected Pink Floyd to sound, probably based on just in the zeitgeist. And then it felt like, and I enjoyed it all, but and then it kind of felt like someone in the band was just listening to the Beach Boys a lot, and it was drifting towards and then Saint-Tropez, and I'm oh, it's an actual Beach Boys song, and then Who Let the Dogs Out, and then it was someone in the band went, guys, we're Pink Floyd, and then oh shit, and then someone hit high B on the amp, bang, we're doing Echoes now. Don't stop for 20 minutes, So I absolutely adored it, and I thought it was really, really cool, and I'm really excited to see how dynamic they are. But based on Brooklyn's a little piece there, I guess it is unusual that they kind of went into this much more mainstream for a couple of songs there, but maybe not. I don't know.
Adelaide.
this is not my genre. I think there are types of like I don't know if this would fall under classic rock. I think it's a little bit before we start like utilizing that term, but definitely like of that brand. And it doesn't really connect with me. I can identify the things that were good. We talked about this before we joined. I didn't realize how long Echoes was before we started. The point that literally I was listening to it when the link was sent. I was like, fuck, and it keeps going. Whereas I can identify that it's done well. I think the actual like members of the band are all doing a great job performing the music. Like the actual the guitars and the drums, like it fucking hits. It is done so well. These are such talented musicians. I just can't emotionally connect. Like to me, this is the sound of like a backyard party, like 4 beers in, of just kind of you're kind of there, but not really. I understand the appeal. I'm not getting to what clicks. That being said, I fucking hate Seamus. I think if you cut that, this is a much better album. It's just like you're driving and you just slam on the brakes in the middle of the highway, and I just can't get over that.
I will say before Andrew hops on, one of the things that he had mentioned before the show's on, one of my favorite things to do with albums is I don't like to look at the runtime beforehand just to kind of see where things go. And I remember Andrew messaging me. He got to the end of Seamus, and he's like, "Oh man, like this album's going by quick." And then he saw Echoes, and he's like, "Oh, this is where we're going." So it's like pacing wise, it's kind of weird, but it also kind of makes sense. But yeah, like oh sorry.
No. Sorry, I would cut you off. You shouldn't apologize. I should apologize.
No, I was just no, like Andy was mentioning how mainstream it sounds, and like just re-listening to some of the tracks, and it's like, yeah, like it is kind of mainstream for them. Like I never really thought of putting it in that context. But we'll get into favorite and least favorite and ratings. I think Melissa, so Melissa.
Yeah, sorry, jumped the gun.
How did the contract talks go? Did we get extended? Do we have a show?
We have good news.
We have good news.
That's all I can say. That's all I can say at the moment.
Okay.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
No problem.
No worries.
So Andrew, we're talking about Meddle. Before we get into ratings, let's what do you have to think about the album?
I'll make it super quick since I'm late. I didn't even realize that I've heard this album before, but I have. It's a great album. Andrew Lloyd Webber stole Phantom of the Opera from this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
100%.
So yeah, great album, love it.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into ratings, favorite and least favorite. Melissa, you had this at a 10 out of 10, you said, and then
yes.
Just remind us of our favorite and least favorite.
Yeah, favorite is Echoes, and least favorite is Seamus.
All right, we'll start with Adelaide, then I guess we'll work our way clockwise.
I started playing Echoes when the show started, and I am barely halfway through. I would give it a 6 out of 10. Again, I think there are good elements, just something that connects with me emotionally or musically. Best song I think is definitely One of These Days, and the worst song is, Seamus.
I give this an 8 out of 10. I think this is pretty all right. Echoes is getting a lot of love, understandably. I'll give some love to Saint-Tropez. I'd say that's my favorite. I like the kind of like the ragtimey kind of sound of it and whatnot. But yeah, I think the clear consensus for least favorite is Seamus. When you are Pink Floyd and you do this psychedelic rock thing for so long, sometimes you got to swing at things that you're not sure if they land. And I don't think the dog thing lands or has aged that well. At the time, oh my God, it's the 53 years since this album came out. That's crazy. Andy.
Score. I think it would have been a 9 if it wasn't for the K9. So I think I'm giving it an 8.8. And then least favorite song is Seamus, as we all agree. And then Echoes is my favorite song. Like there's instead of in the first sort of 10 minutes, I guess Adelaide would have heard this already. The Nick Mason's like hi-hat I can't tell if it's how they might have done it, but it sounds like his hi-hat is opening and closing, but with such control, it feels like it's reversing up rather than being opened like this. It feels like it's kind of coming up and stopping, and it feels so gorgeous. And like, I recommend people just go and listen for that. And then, yeah, just putting like piano through.
I get what you mean now. Yeah.
It's kind of going,
yeah,
like this. And then the hi-hat through the amp, this note here through the amp at the start is really cool and kind of has like a sonic kind of thing. And yeah, and I have no idea. Like I'm into really well constructed long songs. I think Scenes from Italian Restaurant was my setlist preferred song, and that was a bunch of ideas that came together. And I guess Melissa, since you wrote the book on Echoes, is this a bunch of ideas that have been constructed, or is it written as one opera?
I'm honestly not sure. I'm just gonna be honest. Okay. I'm not sure. It's weird with music. I don't geek out as much as I do with movies. Like with movies, I like geek out. I try to find all the things. With music, it's just like I just listen to it and I just love it and like I just feel it. I don't always like, I don't know, look at all the stuff behind the music, but maybe I should.
Okay.
I get that. Like you can prefer a medium that you just connect more to. That's just, I feel like it's natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you like. I guess you can be like a student of one thing and just you just love listening to. Yeah, exactly. The other thing I noticed, just in terms of like studio, a couple of the albums I purposefully listened to in stereo because I felt like they were probably doing stuff in the studio that I'd miss if I didn't. And like again, like the toms are like rolling across your head if you listened with both AirPods in. And I don't know, 1971, it might not have been that easy to do. So I feel like a lot of these things you've got to put them in the context of when they were made. And like now they would easily mic up every tom and it would just all be done in post. Like send that one there, send that one there. It's all easy. Back then I'm thinking like, I don't know, I wasn't around, but like it feels like it would have been much more difficult to send a mic and not have bleed and stuff and send it through your head like that. Like that. So really cool.
Okay. And Andrew.
I'm going to be honest with you. Andy gave the exact score that I was going to give. It was an 8.8. I will echo what everyone is saying about Seamus. My favorite's Fearless. Fearless is the one that has always stuck with me. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, who is this?" And I realized it was Pink Floyd. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess Melissa, since Echoes, I didn't realize Echoes was your favorite song of all time. Dave Grohl does one similar to this called Play. It's like another like 20-minute just instrumental. I think you'd really dig that.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. Now let's get into Adelaide's choice. And Adelaide, you went with Vertigo by Griff.
Yeah. I'm hoping that I introduce everyone to someone new. I discovered her through Spotify's Discover Weekly. I swear by that. I find most of my music through that. And she has sort of like been slowly growing a following. I believe Vertigo was the first single from this that she was like building and dropped, I think like 2021-ish. And now when I was looking at this earlier, she's opening for Sabrina Carpenter in 3 weeks. So she is really doing that, like that Chapel Roan, like momentum building, like full send. And I was like, I'm going to invest in her because I know that like this is something special. Because I heard Vertigo and the other single I found was Astronaut. And I loved those. So I was waiting desperately for the full album. And it didn't disappoint. I think that she has a very consistent, strong style. I think she's able to blend that like modern pop with the indie singer-songwriter lyrics and like musical structure that it really just brings me in and keeps me there. I do think on this like third or fourth listen of the album, it is a little bit first act strong. I think it tapers off a little bit. But in the first half, I think there are so many incredible pieces of music that I felt like I had to share, because in a world where we're having like massive, incredible pop albums like Hit Me Hard, Hit Me Soft or Short and Sweet, I think this deserves to be in consideration and talked about as like one of the better contributions to pop this year.
We'll start with Andrew, I guess.
You're lucky I gave this a second listen. Because I'm not going to lie. First listen, this was sitting at a 4.
What the fuck? We
Uh,
fight on the show now twice now. You've gone for me.
Hey, look, I still gave you like a 7 or a 7.5 on the last one, okay? So
It's produced badly. She's layered too low on the track.
no, here's the thing. Here's the thing. First couple songs, actually like really good. Like I like Vertigo. I like the melody in that one a lot. There is some really good songwriting. I think she's a good vocalist. Then we get to Astronaut. And for a couple songs in a row, up and through like cycles, the production got lost in 2014. It sounded like the production just sounded like every pop girly song from 24, like the post Lord era up until like the Billie Eilish era, like the Deas and things like that. It's just made it sound super dated to me. But then we get to Tears for Fun, and it becomes a little bit more back and forth with that. The other thing that it clicked with me on my second album, listen, you know who Griff reminds me of the most?
Who?
Is Selena Gomez.
Oh.
Tonally reminds me of her a lot. Range-wise, especially.
Okay.
I'm not saying that she's a bad singer. I think she's a very good singer. But you need to be able to make sure that you can work with the range that you have. And I think some of her songwriting team did not help her out with that. So there's a lot of good elements here. I think there's a lot of potential. I don't think that it's bad in any means. I think that there are just some moments where it's dated and kind of mid.
Okay. Let's go to Andy, I guess.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether this was like a music appreciation show where we all try and find the best thing we can about the album.
Oh, you should have watched the last episode. We like shit on a Madonna album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brutalized it.
All right. Okay. What? Okay. First of all, I have to make a point about like albums that I don't listen to like new stuff, right? So yeah, this is a first timer for me. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And does anyone like? Are you any musicians here? Brooklyn, you're a musician, right? So like back in the day, you'd cut like a demo tape using like an 8-track or something. I might be like dating myself, but and this would be something that you'd slip under the door of like radio producers,
Yes.
like that, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, here's my demo. Here, listen to my demo.
Yeah, listen to my demo. Yeah. And you'd front load it with your best song, because it's got to catch that person, because they're going to give it 10 seconds, right? And then once you've got in the door, so to speak, you build your album, you construct your album, and those a few of those albums are on the table today, where they have like almost like an overture or like an intro or like a setting the scene song, and then you find your like track 5 is your like single. And an album called Vertigo, first single Vertigo, probably the strongest song Vertigo, is I think a sign of the times. We've almost like music now is the demo tape of, because people need to be hooked in straight away, because there's so much content. Everyone needs to be like, Netflix needs to end with every episode of a show with a cliffhanger, or you're not going to carry on, because everyone's like an attention span idiot, right? So she or her team or whatever clearly front loaded this. And I think when you're doing an exercise where you're talking about like listening to an album as an album, I think this comes across as a collection of songs, which I think is the problem with albums now in general. I don't think it's a Griff thing. It's just so that's an overall like theory about how albums are made now. They are made for people that have the ability to play around with the track listings and do playlists and all that kind of stuff. So really, there's no album construction here, in my opinion. and it probably does taper off. Weaker end of the albums at the back, but lyrically, disastrous. I mean, like, I don't want to listen to songs, especially her hit song. I don't want to listen to it and go, "Oh, rhyming dictionary," like Mexico. Okay, so she called it Vertigo.
Yeah, that one.
There's no references to Vertigo in it, apart from "You're Scared of Heights." Like that, you could have done like "You're So High on Me." You've got vertigo, or you could have done like your head is spinning. You could have done any references to vertigo, and actually, all it is you're scared of heat. That's Mexico. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, that line's not great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like just.
Vertigo.
I don't even know what "you ran away." That's touch and go. I don't know what it means. I think it's just rhyming. There's a lot of just rhyming here, and
the use of vertigo is the whole like. I'm not gonna defend the bad like rhyming or whatever.
Yeah.
The use of it is to basically say that he is saying that he is scared of love. He's scared of falling in love, and how that's kind of fucking stupid with how much you've put into this relationship, and how you're just scared of actually putting the word on it. Like,
yeah. No, I get it.
And
I'm also like an old curmudgeon, and I hate stuff, right? So like that, it's my fault. It's my fault that her lyrics are bad, but like. Like at one point I'm listening to the album, I'm like, what the fuck is a 19th hour? No one says that, right? Anyway, so my favorite song on this, I won't spoil anything. I won't spoil anything. Astronaut, oh my god, was I excited when I saw a track name called Astronaut, because I'm like, oh, there's a boy band in the UK called Blue, and they're kind of the I pin the song All Rise to the Wall when I talk about how people just find a subject and they just milk it, and like because it's all about court puns. That it's like a breakup song, but they're doing court puns. Like I rest my case and shit like that. And like I'm like, oh, Astronaut, this is gonna be fucking amazing. Like what? It's gonna be all this like references to we're galaxies apart, and like I'm in a black hole. And I was like, this is gonna be. I'm gonna fucking love this, and I was really excited. And then I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh, I can't. Where's the? And I missed it. And I do think it's something to do with the way she sang Astronaut. First of all, I completely missed it. I wasn't reading the lyrics along at the time. I was in the car, and then I heard about. She said something about a white suit, and I was like, oh, she's doing it. She's doing it. This is it. White suit. Okay. And then I heard the line, and now I think, and for anybody that hasn't heard this line, this is how this song came about. It's exactly the same way that. Later on, there's an album where I think they probably had 2 tracks, and they were like, let's make this concept, like let's build it out. And I think Wicked was probably written because a group of people are watching it, and someone went like, but seriously, who steals a dead woman's shoes? And they were like, let's write a movie, something like that, right? And I think what happened with Astronaut is like Griff got broken up with by someone over text. The person was like, look, I just need space. And then she tells her friend, like, oh, he broke up with me. That's so sad. Like, what did he say? He needs space. And her friend, like, what is he, a fucking astronaut? And then they were like, let's write a song. And oh my God, you said you needed space. Go on, that astronaut is the best. And I actually love this pun so much that I was talking to my friend about it at dinner last night. And I said, I want people to own astronaut, like people that do need space, like introverts that can't hold down a relationship. I want them to own it. I don't want it to be like an insult. I want people to be like, look, babe, I'm an astronaut, I need space. And then the girl to be like, what the fuck are you? But musically, Astronaut is the most beautiful song of it is beautiful. But I just love, oh God, I'm so excited. I wrote down a good jokey lyric. You knew just what to say. Did you plan it? As in plan it. I thought, like, come on, put in some effort. There's so many space puns you could have done with. But anyway, it's fine. Oh, what a great. And here's another thing. Adelaide, how well do you know this person? I think she's very talented. I think her singing voice on this album sits in the Billie Eilish like falsetto whispery thing, and actually she probably has some really nice tonality down here that I think Andrew was referencing, and it's like all of that, and I think that's just a trend at the moment, so I don't think that's a problem. But I think she's very, very talented, and I think all of these songs were written at a piano or something, because there's a dissonance between some of the melodies in her verses and actually what the production's doing. It's almost like every song felt like the remix version of what that song would have been when it was written, and so I think there's something there to like really get her teeth into. But I think she probably needs to like go, fuck radio. I've got some really like good ideas. So I think that's a valid point. I think she like has really interesting talent. But yeah, she definitely wrote these songs herself, because no one would sign off on that.
I want to hop in just real quick, because the whole thing at the piano I think makes so much sense, because until like the 11th hour song, there's like zero guitar, almost no real bass. Do you know who Greg Kurstin is as a producer? Does a lot of pop, but he always pushes the percussion to the front. And I think like they were going for that, but it just kind of eliminates any kind of melodic like interest when you do that. And I think that this album does a lot of that.
Yeah, I think there's like, it feels like there's like the bottom half of this, like a double album where actually all of this is now on piano and guitars and stuff, and it sounds really cool. And actually, when a song is sonically appreciable, like you can when you can get in, you don't yuck that yum. You like, people can write shitty lyrics if it's good on the ear, and it's because it wasn't like hitting me that I was like, that kind of thing where you condemn your enemies for putting their elbows on the table, forgive your friends for murder. It's kind of like that, where I'm like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna like dig in, like what the fuck can I do with it? So that's what I felt about it, where I was like, when I get to my favorite song, I think there's something really interesting that she does that is her way forward. I'm not writing her off in general, not that I ever stay on it. I mean, Jesus.
So Adelaide and Andrew kind of already brought up points that I was going to talk about. I do agree that the second half does kind of fall flat, but I think that's also like there is a little bit of construction in the album, because like there are two albums today that are heavily talking about breakups, and I think they handle them differently. I really like what she's doing in Cycles. Like Cycles is this weirdly kind of upbeat sort of song, but I think that's kind of the point of it, as this kind of reminder of like, hey, like these thoughts are going to come up at times, like whether you like them or not. And I think it's just kind of like a way to push through them. I just kind of treat it like an everyday sort of thing. I do agree with what Andrew was saying though, because when I listened to this album for the first time, I thought lyrically that was where it was strongest. I thought the production was kind of flat. Like I would have never guessed that this album came out this year. I thought it was like Andrew was saying, like that 2010s kind of poppy sort of thing. But the second time around, I did notice like a little bit of differences. Like Miss V2 was good, 19th Hour. I really like the beat in Anything. The gang vocals in Tears for Fun were a really cool one. Similar to what like we were saying with Pink Floyd, there was one song that they tried to stretch out. Like Hole in My Pocket has a really kind of like unorthodox beat. I think they're on the 1s and the 3s or something, as opposed to the 2s and the 4s. I just think it takes like a little bit of time to kind of get there. But there are some really cool lines that you're talking about in Cycles. Like it's almost like a shadow that just follows everywhere, and if the walls could talk to make it sound like you were there. Like yes, it is rhymey, but I do like the kind of energy that goes along with it. Everlasting is another really cool one. How the song is like obviously like her parents got like divorced or split up kind of like later on in life, and there's that worry of like no matter like who I fall in love with, there's always that possibility of that happening. So I like that kind of introspective. But yeah, like I like her voice, but yeah, there's something more to be desired, I guess I would say.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of echo a lot of things that have already been said. Kind of actually very similarly, Adelaide, how you felt about Pink Floyd is kind of how, or with Meddle, is kind of how I felt about this album too. Like I didn't really connect with it. and also just pop music in general is not something I gravitate towards. Like here and there, like there's bangers and it's like, okay, I'm into this. But like for the most part, it's not a genre I typically gravitate towards. So yeah, just kind of overall, I didn't really fully connect with it, and it felt a little derivative for me. And I think it's lacking like personality. Like I feel like a lot of the songs kind of sound the same, but I feel like she's very talented, and like there is catchy songs on this album. And yeah, I think that's I forget who had said it, but like she has a lot of potential. Like I'm curious to see like where she goes next on this, but I feel like I would say she probably needs some help with some branding, because like like there's nothing about this album that I'm like, yes, this is totally Griff, like for me at least, personally.
Okay.
While we were talking, I was looking into her producers, and the only one who I can find who was like reoccurring and credited is someone known as Lost Boy. I don't know music producers very well. He's he's worked with Rita Ora, Ellie Goulding, Little Mix, Zed. Like these aren't big hit makers. These are like they'll come by once in every like 5 years. So not great. However,
I've got one producer who I think that she should work with, and I'll say it later.
Genuinely, and we'll talk about this in a couple albums. I think everyone should be working with Dan Nigro. I think that he is like kind of the future of pop music right now, in my opinion. If he could get his hands on her, I think that would create like a very strong album, probably with better songwriting. But again, her voice is like incredible for me.
All right, let's do scores. Adelaide, favorite, least favorite score.
My favorite is Vertigo. It's what got me hooked on her, and I've known for a while that like I want to see what can be done with her, and I think that she has a lot of potential with that song alone, and everything else I really enjoy. Least favorite is probably So Fast. Again, it's not like it's a bad song. I just think that the back half kind of tapers off in quality and consistency. I'd give it an 8. I know before I brought like a holy shit kind of level album, but I wanted to be able to share some. I like sharing music people haven't heard before, so this was my contribution.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. I think that there is still a lot of potential with her. I'm giving it a 5.8.
Oh.
I think if she works with, the person who I think that she should work with, at least for 1 or 2 songs, is Kygo. That kind of tropical house vibe, I think, really would work well with that vocal range that she has. So my favorite song is probably Tears for Fun. I actually just like the way that one was constructed. My least favorite one, though, is Cycles. Like that was just like the most stale. I've heard this song 1,700 times in the 2010s kind of song for me. Let's go to Andy.
Yeah, I had 5.8 in my head as well, so that's 2 for 2.
Holy shit!
So,
Get a room.
that's why I reacted. I wasn't. And I guess whilst if we're pitching like ideas for Griff, like she should find someone called Raven, Huff, and Slith, and call themselves the Four Houses or something. That'd be funny. That was a Harry Potter joke. So, tied on my ass. So what are we doing? Favorite song?
Yeah, favorite and least favorite.
Yeah, favorite song, Astronaut. Oh shit, man, that was so much fun. Least favorite song, Astronaut. What? What happened there? I really love it. I love the music.
Yeah, I'll go next. This started as a 6 on first listen, and then it went up to like a 7.1. I found the little nuances in her production that kind of make her stand out. It's weird. Yeah, my favorite is Astronaut. I like the piano. I like the kind of the intimate moments that it has. Sure, the rhyme scheme is very like I guess AABB or whatnot. But I had fun with it. My least favorite is going to be Pillow in My Arms. And I think it's just especially because let me pull up the track listing here. You're coming off of like you have like Into the Walls, 19th Hour, Astronaut, Anything for like a great 4-track run. Then you have Pillow in My Arms, and it just falls kind of flat. It just doesn't carry the momentum that it has going. Yeah, I'd say it was an all right time. Melissa.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo a lot of my favorites because you guys have said them. I kind of had it tied with Astronaut and Tears for Fun. I really liked those two the best. My least favorite was Cycles. I feel like it was a little too EDM-y for me. Like I don't jive with that most of the time. So because I mean throughout the whole album there's this like electronic undertone and like beats. I don't mind it, but that one just kind of grind my gears a bit. So that was the worst one for me. I'm like in between a score for this. I'll give it a 5.5, I think. Because it's just very middle of the road for me. Like I don't see myself revisiting this, but I could also at the same time, like if I maybe listen to it again, because I only got to listen to everyone's albums once. Maybe some of this would grow on me on a second listen. So as of now, I'd say 5.5.
Sorry, Brooklyn. Do the scores matter? They tally up at the end and stuff like that.
No,
not yet. I was thinking about that the other day. Like at the end of the year, just do like a big list of like how the album's ranked in terms of average. So
okay, well I'm gonna take mine up a whole point because I completely forgot. I mentioned it earlier that there was something that she did that that I was really impressed by, and it's interesting because in Vertigo there's a tiny moment of it, and that is using the vocoder. And then,
that last song.
Yeah, the last song, Where Did You Go? All in vocoder was so interesting, and that's what I want to see more of that. I thought that was really cool, and that should really, apart from the joke of putting Astronaut as my best and worst, Where Did You Go really should be my favorite song because just a really cool idea for using that. And after I heard Vertigo and I heard that one moment of vocoder, I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. And then I had to wait 14 tracks for it.
Oh, Andy, like I'm gonna send you a song in our group chat.
Okay.
All right. So then that puts us on to Andy's album. And yeah, tell us more about Whispers by Passenger.
Yeah. So I think many people Passenger got really big after he released All the Little Lights and basically Let Her Go came out, and it became, I think it's the second most Shazam song ever. So he's that kind of artist. I think it's like the artist that like, oh, I know that, but like no one really knows. I'm sure everyone knows this. So Let Her Go came out and it blew up, and I'm kind of a little bit on the inside of this. So I had a coffee with Chris Vallejo, who was the producer of All the Little Lights and Whispers, and he was talking about how crazy it was. So the story of Mike is that he had this band called Passenger, and then they broke up after the first album, and then he took on the name as his solo album, and he just busked. And he really hated the UK in terms of the scene, the music scene, and it is a bit of a black hole for music if you're not, you don't have like nepotism or like someone that you know, or you're not rich or something like that. And it's really tricky. And so he kind of busked to Australia to get going there, based on a recommendation from a friend that he went to uni with, I believe, and basically then busked his way to Chris Vallejo's house, the producer, Linear Studios in Sydney, and he played Chris a few songs on the guitar, and Chris was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And Mike had no money, so Chris was like, "That's fine. You know what? Like, I'll take points on the album." And then Mike didn't have a place to live, so he's like, "Oh, you sleep in the studio." So he set him up a little bed in the studio, and they made the album there, and it became All the Little Lights. It completely blew up. And Chris, this is kind of, it sounds a bit weird, but just in that kind of anecdotal way, Chris showed me his bank account for royalties, just for royalties, and it was ticking up like this, where Let Her Go is just being played all over the world. And it was absolutely, he was just saying like, this is what can happen, you just need that one song. And it was just unbelievable. And so with that happening to Mike, who was this kind of like, he seems like wise before his years, he kind of hates cell phones, he never wanted to be as big as Ed Sheeran, kind of always wanted to sit behind like the next tier down. I don't think he can stand the idea of being any bigger. And then this happens to him, and I was fascinated to see what came next. And Whispers is basically the absolute best thing that a fan of Passenger could hope for, which is someone who, he didn't go and hire like a super producer and get a bunch of songwriters. It's exactly the same team that made All the Little Lights, made Whispers. It's almost like All the Little Lights made no money and they did it again. And it's so lovely and sweet. And I don't know if anybody listens to Art of the Score, but Nicholas Buck like arranged all the strings on it. So when you hear the string quartet, Enigma quartet, I think they're called, the four of those girls like weaving their instruments in and out of each other, they're so good. That's all Nick Buck's arrangement, and then with and it's a live room. Like the Linear Studios are beautiful, and everyone plays at the same time, and it's really good. I think you can hear that, although it's tight, it sounds really nice and open. And then the other thing I have to mention, like production wise, and I recommend anyone looking this up, is like this £8,000 mic called a Neumann KU100, I think, and it's the shape of a human head. And so the singers, if anyone revisits,
I have seen one of these.
Yeah, so if anyone revisits Whispers, you might notice that the harmonies in it sound tighter and really kind of enveloped more than most albums. And it's this, first of all, he got this folk trio from Newfoundland that already sing together. They were already a band to sing with him.
You said
then
Canada stuff in Brooklyn.
Is it the Once?
The Once, exactly.
Yeah, so they actually played here a couple weeks ago, and they do one of my favorite covers of a Queen song, "You're My Best Friend." They have a very nice trio of harmonies. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like he basically, he got these people, and so they all stand around, and I've been lucky enough to stand around with my band. You stand around this head in Linear, and like so wherever you sing onto that head is where it's going to come out, and it's just incredible. This 360 sound. So I highly recommend like getting really into Whispers and like, really listening to it in that kind of, and hearing everyone sing around you like that, and it does feel kind of anthemic, even if it's not big, which I really like. And so I just found it fascinating that Mike was able to produce an album where he did talk about like being famous, because like that's what happens when people break. They write a song about being famous, and so Mike wrote 27 about what it's like to be, I think 27, and what's the other song where he sings about this lonely, like basically like the lonely life, Rolling Stone, like being like a play on Papa was a Rolling Stone, where he's like, he's famous and it's a lonely thing because although he's got everything he wanted, he's lost friends, and like he doesn't see people, and he misses christenings and weddings and stuff. And with 27, there's that line, written 600 songs, only 12 get sung, and it just resonates as a music. I believe he's like the musician's musician. It resonates so much that everything he's singing. And then I Love a Rant, and then you've got like Scared of the Dark at the end, which is like a full-on like rant about how tech's taking over, and everyone should put their fucking phones down all the time. But obviously I'm addicted to my phone too. So yeah, anyway, that's my bit.
We'll start with Melissa this time.
Sure. I really enjoyed this. I had only known, of course, the Let Her Go song. Like I hadn't listened to anything else by this artist. So yeah, no, I thought this album was good. I really like his voice. I think he has a very distinct, interesting voice, and I really like it. Also, I think the songwriting just overall was really strong. There's definitely like this vulnerability and rawness, I feel like, to the way that he performs the songs. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a musician, but I still really connected with a lot of the stuff that he was singing about. I felt like, yeah, there was definitely some themes of like loneliness and death and some other stuff that I thought was very poignant. Yeah, overall, like I really enjoyed this. I would say like some of it is a little like sounds the same maybe, but again, I only listened to it the one time. But I could also see them being very good in concert. Like I feel like this would be a really good concert to go to. Was the feeling I was getting.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
I'll go next. I really dug this. Michael David Rosenberg, his voice kind of takes a little bit. Like it's definitely an acquired taste. But in the context of the album, I think it's really good. With like we were talking about Let Her Go, he kind of stays in that pocket. Like here, I'll kind of bring out the guitar here. Like when he plays Let Her Go, like you can tell like it's on Capo 5 and it's like and you can tell that it's kind of like up on the guitar. Like you don't get that nice like bassy kind of tone with it. But I think that works with his voice because it is kind of like raspy and gritty at times. I like the album cover as well. It kind of gives this like element of like a kind of children's book and like something that you kind of want to like show to your kids in that way. That was really neat. You were mentioning 27. I really like the drum beat in it as well, like that and like and yeah, I really like that. I was worried though because I heard that and I'm like, I hope they don't use that beat again because that beat can get overused at times. And then it pops up again in Bullets, and I was like, it's kind of a letdown because the rest of that song is really good. I really like the accordion in it, and like the slide guitar, like it really kind of bends into country. But then you get from like Rolling Stone to Scare Away the Dark is an incredible second half. I think Start a Fire is really cool. Like this album in general does a really good job of letting songs breathe. Like it has a rest and it kind of takes a couple beats to get back into. Like I agree with you, Andy. 27 has some really strong lines. My favorite one in it is the I gotta sell out if I want to get sold. Don't want the devil to be taking my soul. That was the one that I grabbed to on first time. The second time though, it was Riding to New York, and in particular the chorus, because I want to see my granddaughter one last time, want to hold her close and feel her tiny heartbeat next to mine, and it hits different, and like just like seeing the relationships with grandparents and kids, and cherishing every visit that you have because you never know when it is going to be your last. So I really like that. I did not know that the Once was on this, but that kind of just brings it up even more so because I think they're a really cool folk band that doesn't get talked about enough. But yeah, what else is there? Yeah, I'm just a sucker in general for that like nylon string kind of guitar, and you can hear that throughout the album. Just the overall softness of it, I think goes really well. Yeah, and then like Golden Leaves is just a nice like real pretty kind of ballad and whatnot. What Adelaide next though?
This album is like a plate of mashed potatoes. It's really good. I enjoy mashed potatoes, but if the plate is too big, sometimes I can't really tell when I started eating, and I don't know when I'm going to stop because it just kind of blends together, and not enough of the songs really stand out for me to have very strong emotions about everything going on. I'm not huge on his voice. I think it gets kind of grating over time. As someone who is a fan of Let Her Go, like I think he's a good performer. I think a whole album of his voice kind of wore me down by the end of it. That being said, I think he's a very talented songwriter. I think some of the songs, when I was able to really focus in on them, were fantastic. One of my favorite lyrics is from Start a Fire, and it's just fucking beautiful. It's Now my heart's so frozen like where streams used to flow down to the forest of my minor memory would grow. That's incredible. Fucking T.S. Eliot, eat your goddamn heart out. Like,
It's really weird that originally he finished that line off with "Go on then, astronaut."
Holy shit!
I want to hate you more, but you're too
No,
funny.
it's all love. It's all love. That's a beautiful line. That's a beautiful line. One of my least favorite songs, actually.
It's a really strong. Like I think if you gave this to another performer, or if there was like it's gonna sound like a total insult, I don't mean it to. If I could hear this as like a cover album of other artists covering these songs in the way that different people approach it, I would be a lot more interested because I think he has a great talent as a writer and even as a producer. But a lot of them just kind of sound the same to me, and his voice doesn't help that. But I think there are a couple really great songs. It's just little peaks of gravy in a pile of mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Andrew.
Okay. You said Chris Vallejo was the producer on this?
Mm-hmm.
This album sounds fucking incredible. Like the way that the horns and the strings sound on this, the backing vocals, it's all absolutely beautiful. It is such a gorgeous album to listen to. And there are some really high points lyrically on this album. We brought up Start a Fire and 27. I think Golden Leaves is also like really good. Riding to New York is very, very moving, very touching. But God, I think this album just ends on such a sour note. I really did not like Scare Away the Dark. I actually kind of hated that song. And it was mostly because it gave me the vibes of come on, sheeple, why aren't you as good as me? Like that one Gangnam song
Fair.
line,
So fair.
that hit me so poorly, and it seemed really bitter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I do really like this album. I think that, as I said, the songwriting is fantastic. The melodies are really, really good. I love the tempo of 27. I just think that it ends kind of really poorly for me, personally.
Interesting.
I see. Okay, I wanted to add one more thing before we got into ratings and scores because I got to that song on Listen, and I was like, you know who would work really well with Passengers? Neil Young. That brutal honesty that you would get from a lot of his songs. I think they would pair really well. I got that same kind of vibe, but yeah, I'm not sure what the window of opportunity is for that. So let's get into ratings and scores, starting with Andy, and then we'll work counterclockwise this time. So Andy and then Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know how to rate Whispers really. I guess like it's sat somewhere between an 8 and a 9 for me, because I think the context that I added of it being the follow-up, like I guess if I put myself in Mike's shoes when he puts this album together, he's so crazy successful, and that's why there are lines in Rolling Stone that are like, it's in Whispers, and another one about like having suddenly gone famous as Whispers, where he's saying like I need whispers in a world that's full of shouts, and it's people are filling me up with noise and stuff like that. To be able to put an album together like this, I think the context helps. I think so, but he doesn't flex. He doesn't try anything crazy. I think the most oh whoa shit, Mike, take it easy is when he uses like the Roland 808 in Riding to New York. It's like not a real drums kit, it's like, whoa. So I think that's like he doesn't, they didn't try anything. But what I admire about it is, our core fans got us here. Let's make them one more, and that's what I love about it. So I think it's like an 8.5 for me. Least favorite song is Thunder, because it's the only song on the album that's not really about anything. I think Baby Turtles rhyming with circles is cute, but I think Mike admits that it's not really about anything, meaningless, and almost didn't make the album, as far as I know. And then my favorite song, "'Cause I want to see my granddaughter one last time," Riding to New York. So 2 true stories on the album, aside from all the kind of autobiography stuff. Bullets is a true story about a guy who had kind of lost everything, but had this one love, which was collecting bullets, and then they got stolen from him by a group of people, like a group of men in a truck that the bullets didn't have any worth, so there's no point in them stealing them. They just smashed up all the cabinets in that room and took all the bullets. And so sad. You know, not everyone cares about bullets going missing, but like this is all this guy had. And so that's a true story. And like Riding to New York's completely true. Met the guy in Minneapolis. He had lung cancer, and he was cycling across the United States to go live out his last few days with his kids. He had been estranged from them for a little bit, and Mike just got chatting to him. I think Mike went to buy cigarettes and got chatting to this guy, and wrote the song that night. And it's probably the most real, true song that he's ever written, and arguably the finest song he's ever written. But yeah, and also in terms of our albums all connecting, I think there are little strange connect where we all just pick random albums. I think there are little connections. Like there's 2 psychedelic rock bands, and there's an album coming up that has an overture, and I think Coins in a Fountain. You need to catch it on re-listens, but Coins in a Fountain is a lyrical overture of what's going to happen with the album. So it's lots of imagery, and it talks about all these different emotions that he's going to be then discussing with you through the album, which I think is very, very cool. No, don't tend to hear people do lyrical overtures. But so Riding to New York, my favorite song, and Thunder, whatever, Baby Turtles.
All right, Andrew.
This album would be at an 8. It would be at an 8 if it wasn't for that last song for me. I'm going to be honest. Spoiler alert, Scare Away the Dark is my least favorite song on this album.
Sorry, and Scare Away the Dark is his final song at a show as well. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of exercising the demons, because he used to play to people and he'd see their faces, and now he sees iPhones, right? So and now he's saying if we all light up, we can scare away the dark, almost like turning it on its head. But it is sung anthemic. It is like everyone's in that same room together, supposed to be leaving the show, still singing that down to the train station, going oh, and that is what happens at a passenger show. Like people are singing that in the same way that you leave Coldplay and everyone's going whoa, like that. So people leave passenger shows singing the scare Away the Dark anthem. And I guess maybe it's better as a live song, but and interestingly, All the Little Lights ends with a similar rant called I Hate, and it's not a studio recording, it's from a live it's like the one live track on the album. He plays it because it needs people laughing at the jokes, and basically as far as I know, he was like, I've written a whole song about loneliness and death. I need to make people laugh, and he puts these rants at the end of his albums on purpose to kind of add some levity to them. So that's just coming at it from where I think Mike comes at it, but right. Don't start liking the song, hate on it. That's keep going.
It probably is a song that works better live. Unfortunately for this recording, it leaves such a sour taste in my mouth, which is sad considering that the rest of the album is so good. So it's sitting at a 7.5 for me. favorite song is 27. Like there was just like a lot, like as I said before, the tempo is great, the production on that's amazing, the melody is just like really, really good. I think he's giving a fantastic vocal performance on that song.
That string cutaway as well. That
it's so good.
Which is the final few notes of that are the Lord of the Rings theme, by the way.
All right, that's it for me.
Bump it up.
All right. Adelaide.
For me, it'd be a 6.7. Again, I think it kind of becomes a homogenous experience. I do think stuff stands out. 27 was one of my picks, but I have to pick Start a Fire. I think that it is written just beautifully. It's fantastic. Another thing I wanted to say to try and like play into Brooklyn's ear is there is a few songs in there where they're playing on bongos, and I was just like, wow, this is like I want to hear him make like a yacht rock album. Like I feel like his voice isn't meant for it, but the way that it's made, I'm like, you know what? I kind of get this. Yeah, let's
like a Seals and Crofts kind of thing.
And then the Barr, I think again, I was kind of zoned out by the end of it. I think Barr reminded me. Yeah, I think Scare Away the Dark just have just a couple like a couple verses where I'm just like, wow, this is not a vibe, dude. I just didn't have a good time with it ending.
Yeah. This is a 9 for me. I really enjoyed it, that folky kind of thing. Listening through it on the second time, I definitely got the sentiment of like hearing this in a live setting with a bunch of people at like an outdoor festival. Like I think Passengers would crush a festival here. Like we just started doing one 2 years ago. That's more in like the indie rock sort of scene. I think it would do well there. But yeah, my favorite song is Riding to New York. That's what I'm going to hold on to for a while. I think it has similar vibes even to like to Vienna and that sort of way. I was alluding to it earlier, but my least favorite is Bullets. I feel like even listening to it now, I get a sense of like there's a conflict of like how fast the song should be, because I feel like the drums are kind of driving along, but Mike's like, no, like we kind of need to keep this one slow. I honestly think of it when like a little bit faster, kind of similar to where 27 is and where it gets its success from. I think it would do well, but otherwise else like an incredible time and a great concept for an album. Melissa.
Yeah. I also have Bullets as my least favorite song. Too much harmonica, like it's just too much for me. And it's just not a song I like was really vibing with. So I'd say that's my least favorite. Favorite was Golden Leaves. I'm pretty much always gonna like the very melancholy song on an album. Like I tend to just like a sad music. That's just like what I gravitate towards when it comes to music. So that one was definitely my favorite because it definitely had like a haunting kind of somber melancholy type of vibe to it, and I liked that quite a bit. Overall I really enjoyed this album. I like his voice a lot. It's very again like distinct and unique, and I really liked the guitar throughout. Like I the way that it sounded, and the songwriting super strong. So I would give this a 7.
Okay. So now we're on to my album, and that is going to be Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. And I guess a little story, I guess, before we get into the actual album. So Weird Al Yankovic put out his new polka medley, Polka Mania, and the bit of that song that has been living in my head rent free is whenever he covers vampires. You're a bloodsucker, bleh, dream crusher, bleeding me dry like a gosh darn vampire. It's a very like hilarious kind of line. And as I was stewing on this, like, have I been sleeping on Olivia Rodrigo? Because there's a couple clips from this song that get like played on loop on top 40 radio stations as kind of like a lead into like, oh, you're on Hot 105.5, like that sort of thing. So I wanted to give this an album a listen and see if it is worth all the hype, and it absolutely does. I like the arrangement of this album. Like you can tell that this is like fresh off of a breakup, like even like the next day after or days after, and it has this nice sort of progression like coming on the end. There's a little more like realization, and there's there's some lessons kind of learned throughout it and whatnot. Brutal. I'll toot my own horn. Brutal is the best opener of it out of any of the songs or any of the albums we're talking about today. Just that garage rock opening, is just right up my alley. And just kind of like the whispery kind of strain, I think works well. Oh, what? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought you were gonna say something there, Andrew. But yeah, it has a nice little kind of transcendence, I guess, throughout the album. Trader, you kind of get a sense like she's having suspicions of her boyfriend cheating on her, and then eventually being right. I really like the line like, God, I wish that you had thought this through before I went and fell in love with you. And you really get a sense of like the kind of the angst and the pain throughout it and whatnot. Driver's License obviously being one of the big singles on it. I like the way the synth comes in at the start of the choruses, and just how she symbolizes like these different points in their relationship, and like you can't drive by them because it reminds you of like all those memories and whatnot. One step forward, three steps back is a nice little break from the production heavy songs at the start. You got me fucked up in the head, boy. Never doubted myself so much. Like, am I pretty? Am I fun, boy? I hate that I give you power over that kind of stuff. And it's like it's relatable because like even now, like there are moments that kind of just pop up in your head that like whether you try to get rid of them or not, they're just kind of there. Deja Vu is this nice, really kind of breathy, kind of not psychedelic, but it's definitely like a stargazy kind of song. I like the little Billy Joel moment because I think like because you played her Uptown Girl, I think kind of has like this double meaning. But then you get to the end of the song and it's like, oh, well, I'm the one that showed you Billy Joel, and like now you're doing this to kind of show others. Good for You, another one of the singles. It reminds me a lot of like Hayley Williams, especially you get into like how she kind of comes off rhythm during the second verse. Like It's Good for You. It's like, you never even met me. Remember when you swore to God I was the only person who ever got to you. Like that kind of rhythm. I like that kind of play. But yeah, then you get into, where is it? Like Favorite Crime and Hope You're Okay. Then you kind of realize that there's been time that's passed since the event, and there's been a little more reflection. But yeah, it's also a really short album. I think it's less than 40 minutes.
It's 35.
Yeah, 35. Yeah, so like if you're out, like I use this to take my dog to the park, and that's a perfect amount of time. Enough time to get there, go play fetch, come back home, and then the album ends. But I'm curious as to how everyone else feels about it. Andrew, you seem very giddy.
Yeah, I'll start. First things first. Guts is better. All right. So,
what's that? Wait, what's that? What did you just say?
Guts is better. Her second album.
Oh, okay. This is a person who has albums. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we gonna fight? What's going on?
I have no idea who this is. Don't forget, I am in a different country than you guys.
Right.
This person
She was in a TV show.
What TV
You think
show?
you watched that show?
What TV
Season
show?
1, High School Musical, the musical, the series is pretty good.
Oh my god.
I'm 40. I didn't watch High School Musical. We call it Upper School. It wasn't called Upper School Musical yet. Anyway, no, I didn't watch that.
It would be a 10 out of 10 if it was.
There's a lot I'm missing. I need to catch up.
Well, first of all, Brooklyn, good for you. It does interpolate Misery Business. But also, Brooklyn, with Brutal, you know that it samples Elvis Costello, right?
Yeah, there was it does the same sort of beat.
Yeah, it's Pump It Up by Elvis Costello. It's just kind of slowed down and like muddied up a bit. But that's the thing about this album that actually is like really, really interesting, because you can hear the influences on her sleeve. Like there's clear Elvis Costello, there's clear Paramore, Taylor Swift is in there. There was another one I had, but I can't remember what it was.
Save it. I'll do it.
Okay, good. Thank you. But here's the thing. First of all, it's the perfect length. Like, I feel like if this was any longer, it probably would have lost traction. I think Olivia Rodrigo is best when she's in her pop rock phase. When she's doing the more contemporary pop kind of thing, it's still better than a lot of the other contemporary pop out there, but it does not quite hit the same as her like pop rock kind of phase. Like, she's clearly influenced by like the MySpace music era, but like Fall Out Boy and Fountains of Wayne and things like that. But I do really like this album a lot. Like, knowing it from like a high schooler's perspective really does help, because there are some lyrical things that you're like, okay, I was in that kind of headspace too as a writer in that age. I love Jealousy, Jealousy. I think the bass line in that one is really, really cool. Deja Vu, I love that the breakdown. And I think that's such a cutting line too, even for a teenager. Like, the fact that it's just like, oh, do you get deja vu when you do the exact same things that you did with me that you're doing with her that I introduced you to? That's kind of brutal when you think about it. I think that she is a very talented artist. I cannot wait to see where she goes next. This was a great stepping stone for her. And I think that she's just going to get better from here.
Adelaide.
Joshua Bassett should rot in hell.
Damn.
I will say though, he's led to a lot of great music. He created one of Sabrina Carpenter's.
Yeah, who is that?
Okay, so he's like the Troy Bolton in High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Oh my God! He's a songwriter and an actor.
No. Okay, Andy, time for you to do I'm gonna give you a link.
Oh my God!
So there's this other pop star, Sabrina Carpenter. Apparently, he was dating Olivia Rodrigo, and then cheated on her with Sabrina because Sabrina thought that they had broken up.
Are they related? Did you say Nick Carpenter?
No, Joshua Bassett.
Oh shit, I'm so confused.
Anyways,
don't send links in the private chat.
Because I Like the Boy, which is a great Sabrina Carpenter song, and this fucking decade-defining pop album. I think this is one of the boldest debuts in pop we've had in a long time. I think this is not. I think is Melodrama Lord's first album.
Second.
Okay, so I can't speak hyperbolically about it then. But like, I think.
That was the other big influence. That was the other one.
I think this is just incredible. She has a very clear voice. I think her blending of mainstream pop and then like the Paramore kind of pop rock is exactly the kind of vibe that I was looking for when I was in high school. So when I got it at 22, boy, I'm fucking missed out. It's just incredible. I think she has mastered the art of bangers only. Like, any one of these, except for one, which I think is kind of a bad song, could be the lead single, and I wouldn't fucking blink at it. She is just brilliant at this. I don't know how the Disney machine, I don't know what crack they put in the water over there in Los Angeles, but the Disney Star Maker
Crack
was great. It was great for the 2000s. Fucking died in the 2010s. You kind of get Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato, but kind of not really. And then it came back because her and Sabrina are doing crazy shit, and I think this is immaculate. If we're going even song by song, Brutal is one of the best singles of the 2010s or 2020s for pop. Traitor is fucking incredible. Driver's License is overplayed, but it's still really solid. Every single song here, I think that you could analyze musically, and it is doing new things for pop music, which is inspiring the next generation. I just hate that it's fucking 14-year-olds who are getting into this, because we deserve to go to an Olivia Rodrigo concert and not kids who they're selling alcohol. Have you seen the Twitter videos and the TikToks where the line to the bar is empty?
I don't have either of those.
It is just it is like high schoolers going, and no one. I follow someone from Big Brother who she was like the oldest person at the concert, and she was like 28. It was the kids, her, and then the parents, and that was it. I am happy that the next generation of youth, especially like young musicians, are learning from people like her. Because I think if pop is in her hands, we're in a very good direction.
We'll go to Melissa next.
Yeah, I feel very old and like an old lady. Because again, pop is just not something I typically gravitate towards. But I will say this girl came on the scene and like she was in my face because I've heard a lot of these songs because they're everywhere. But I hadn't actually listened to the whole album. And I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I think not to compare, but I guess I'm gonna compare to Griff. Like I just think the voice and like the themes and the messaging is just way more distinct, and like I see the personality here. Just to compare kind of the two pop albums. But yeah, I mean, if I was a Gen Z kid, like yeah, this album would probably be like my everything, because it just I feel like very much encapsulates like teen angst, and it's a great breakup album, super catchy songs. I do kind of wish I will agree with what Barr was kind of saying. I kind of wish she went more like the pop punk rock vibe. Like I think those are the strongest songs, and like I just think that style worked best for her. So like I would love to see if she maybe does that next with a future album. But yeah, overall I thought this was great, but I do feel extremely old, and I feel like should I be listening to this? I don't know.
Andy.
Let me play something a second.
Okay.
God.
Car rides to Malibu, strawberry ice cream, 1 spoon for 2, and no alarms and no surprises.
Okay, it's the same song.
Oh my God! It is.
Stop
Radiohead.
I just made one note, which is like the most interpolation ever, which is for people that don't know, it's like a made up word that means plagiarism. But I really like this, to be honest with you. I thought like I think like Andrew, I think you and I, you know, like I think some of these emotions and some of these like quips and things like that. Oh man. Yeah, when you take all the best parts of a relationship, you start the new one, and you kind of like. I mean, I'm on that end of the song in that respect. But yeah, you do kind of like recreate all the, you know. Even now, I'm married with 2 kids, and we're talking about like a holiday in New York, because I had a fiance in New York for a while, and we want to do all those things so that my memories of those things are with my wife rather than my ex and stuff. That, you know, it is kind of, I was on the inside of a lot of these thought processes, and I think it's really cool. And some of it, and the Happier, I think that's a really cool idea where like, you know, it felt very Adele in just lyrically, maybe not lyrically, but like just in theme. And like, there's a song, oh gosh, I think you mentioned it. 1 step forward, 3 steps back. What's the melody going?
1 step forward, 3 steps back, and I'd leave you, but the roller coaster's all I've ever had.
Something like that, right? And I went, roller coasters don't work like that. You don't go 1 step forward and 3 steps back on a roller coaster. And then I rewrote it, and now it's better.
It's 1 step forward and 3 steps back, and I leave you, but the chutes and ladders all I ever had.
And that is better. So chutes and ladders, you actually go 1 step forward and take 3 steps back.
What the fuck?
Pay attention. Pay attention, lyricists. Anyway, yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool. Just like roller coasters, man. Just ride a roller coaster and you'll see.
Yeah.
Just real fast. I'm sorry, I have to tell Andy. So Vampire, the song on her next album, Guts.
Okay.
That also, like the moment I heard that song, that's when I went, oh, this is Radiohead.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh yeah.
Which song?
You would fucking hate Vampire, by the way, Andy. Don't.
Oh, really?
It's good. You should.
Vampire on a roller coaster.
Yeah, let's get into we'll get into favorite, least favorite, and scores. This is a 9.2 for me. I love the arrangement and kind of the arc that it takes. In particular, like we were talking about Happier, and it really kind of has like this petty kind of undertone. Like I hope you're happy. I wish you all the best. Really, say you love her, baby, but just not like you loved me. Like there's that really kind of like backhanded compliment sense to it. But then my favorite song, actually, God damn it. Honorable mention, hope you're okay, because I think that's one of the greatest closing lines, especially like, given all the jabs she's kind of giving to this person. And then it ends with, well, I hope you know how proud I am you were created with the courage to unlearn all of their hatred. God, I hope that you're happier today because I love you and I hope that you're okay. And it takes a lot of strength to kind of get to that point. And it's very satisfying when you do. But my favorite song, I will say, is Jealousy, Jealousy. I really like the groove in it. It does something really cool in the bridge where the piano kind of falls out of place with the melody. Like it does these like weird kind of like intentionally wrong notes. And I like how it kind of represents like how these thoughts like kind of eat at you and kind of like deteriorate aspects of things. So yeah, that's what I really enjoyed. But an incredible time. We'll go to Melissa and then work clockwise.
Yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I could see myself revisiting it again, especially with the short runtime, which is great. I'd say I'd give this an 8. I think my favorite song, it's kind of tied. I like Deja Vu a lot, and I like Good For You. I know it's the popular ones, but they're fucking catchy. They're great. So yeah, I'd say those are my favorite. And then my least favorite was Enough For You. I think it was a little too whiny and just meh. So yeah.
Andy.
Okay, yeah. I'll take your 8, Melissa, and I'll go 1 step forward and 3 steps back. I'll give it a 7.8. And sorry.
Just layup after layup.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
The math works.
Yeah, the math works. Yeah. I really did enjoy this. I think my favorite song is No Surprises. And my least favorite song. Do you know what? Sometimes I see tweets from people that are 20 years younger than me, and they manage to do it all in lowercase. And I don't know about you guys, but my phone puts capital letters at the start of every sentence. I have many lists. I love lists. I have lists about the lists I have, and everything starts with a capital letter. If I'm writing and I cannot tell you how crazy it drove me that everything was in lowercase. And for that reason alone, because I'm pretty sure she didn't write this song list out on a fucking Nokia 3310. Good For You, written with a 4. Sorry. I don't care how it sounds. I skipped it.
Fair enough.
Be sure to check in next week when we do T9 keyboard sessions with Andy.
So annoying.
Prince, nothing but Prince.
Adelaide.
So my favorite song is Good For You. Specifically to piss off Andy.
Do you know what? The next song is Enough For You, right? On the album, written properly. What the fuck? So she knows. She knows how to do it. Anyway, I liked it.
I think it was Melissa who said it, or Barr. One of you two said it. We're just like, I think that she sounds more interesting as like this pop rock kind of vocalist. I think that musically it's more interesting than kind of fading into the modern pop levels, but she still does it pretty good. I think 1 step forward, 3 steps back is the worst song. And I will say specifically, I know why, is because fucking Taylor Swift and Jack Antonoff did it fucking talentless hacks. I can just feel it seeping through, and it just feels uninspired and lazy. Like it is genuine. It is holding it back for me from being a no skip album. I give it a 9.1 because I hold it to a very high level, and I think that it's fucking incredible. If that song was just cut cold, I would miss nothing. If it never existed, I would be happier.
Cool.
Which song's gonna
Fuck
be?
Jack Antonoff, by the way. I hate that.
Oh,
man.
hey, hold on. now.
He has written all of the worst Taylor Swift songs, has
That's
produced
not
some of the
true.
worst Sabrina Carpenter albums. He is a failure of a producer.
Oh my
Fuck
God!
that
Listen
man.
to a Bleachers album for once in your life.
It's Taylor
I
Swift.
would rather not, thank you very much.
Listen to Saint Vincent.
I've seen the movie.
Get the fuck out of here. Okay. I'm just taking over this ship. I'm taking the stir like the wheel out of Adelaide's hands right now. This is a solid 8. It's a solid 8. Deja Vu is my favorite song on the album. As Melissa said, it's one of the singles. It's a basic pick, but it's the one that is obviously the most interesting to me. Least favorite, I actually agree. It's One Step Forward, Three Steps Back. Paula Abdul and DJ Scat Cat did that kind of line better in Opposites Attract. Poser. But yeah, it's a solid debut. I think that she just will get better in time. Even if she doesn't stay as popular, I think that she will just get better.
I just realized I never gave a least favorite. I would say that it is enough for you. I'd say because as we get down the track listings, that's when I started to realize all right, we're kind of overstaying the welcome for that emotion. And then when you finally get to Happier and Jealousy, then it's all right, we're kind of moving on to the next chapter of the album. But now on to Andrew for the last album of the show. Tell us why you picked Days of Future Past by Moody Blues with the London Festival Orchestra. You did the thing.
I did the thing. So let's talk about one of the proprietors of prog rock alongside Pink Floyd. The moment you picked Pink Floyd and I had that album, I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun. Nights in White Satin has always been one of my all-time favorite songs. And so I had been wanting to listen to this particular album for a while, but for some reason, it just wasn't available anywhere. No streaming, no physical copies until maybe a year and a half ago. So the moment I found out that it was available, I got it for Christmas. I played it the moment that I could. And it spoke to my heart, my theatrical heart, my prog rock heart, my songwriting heart, all of that. It is just this beautiful, epic concept album that starts with this incredible opening from the London Festival Orchestra. This is an album that it's their second album, but there were so many changes to the lineup. And this is an album that's created by, aside from the orchestra itself, mostly people in their that were 20 and 21, which is just absolutely insane that people that young were able to make something that's so beautiful and epic in scale. The transitions in this are just absolutely stunning. I can't remember what song it was exactly. I think it was The Afternoon, where he finished singing and it just the melody carried on with horns and woodwinds, and it was just so perfect a transition. I think that there are some songs that could have been cut up a little bit into two separate parts, but everything flows together so beautifully. It speaks to the musical theater nerd in me because it sounds like something that the Sherman Brothers would have orchestrated for a Disney film in some regards. It's just a beautiful listen and one of the best albums, as a full album listen, that I've ever heard. So I'm very curious to hear people's thoughts on this one.
Let's start with Melissa.
Okay, Andrew, the last time I was here, you gave me the gift of Hounds of Love, and you've done it again.
Let's go!
with this one. Oh my god. Yeah, I fucking love this. This is great. Yeah, I had heard yeah, Knights in White and Satin. Like I definitely have heard that song before, but I definitely have not listened to anything else by the Moody Blues that I'm aware of. Yeah, it was funny. I started playing this while I was just like working at home, and I started playing it, and my husband was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "I'm not." I was like, "I'm not watching anything." And I say that because I feel like this album is very like cinematic in a way. It felt like I was like listening to a movie or listening to a play almost. Yeah, the like orchestral arrangements for like very like imaginative and like creative. That's just like the feeling I had like listening to it. And I loved the harp. Love me a harp. Yeah, that just the soundscape of it all was. I was a bit speechless, honestly. I was like, this masterpiece. I'm going to. Sorry, out of all the albums today, I'll definitely be revisiting this one the most for like something new because it was just totally my jam. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. As soon as we got you on the panel, I was like, I know exactly what album I'm picking.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I have nothing but like good things to say about this. So yeah, loved it.
Andy.
Yeah, this is damn near perfect, I think. I wrote down cinematic as well, Melissa. It like has, I think most of the orchestral moments in it would fit right inside a Star Wars movie. So it had like Corn Gold, John Williams, like, and then there were like moments of Debussy and stuff like that, like which you know, Williams stole for Star Wars or whatever. You know, it all worked. Yeah. So yeah, I really dug it. The overture track was just sublime, and then hearing when I went back and listened to it again, you realize I think the second time is when I realized it was an overture track, because you're hearing all the melodies from all the songs in that first track, and God, that was good. And then the second time I listened to it, I picked out the line because obviously it's all about a day, and I do believe that. And I'm not saying like this is a bad thing. I referenced it earlier. I do think they had like Nights in White Satin and a song called Tuesday Afternoon. They were like, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we like filled the gaps in?" And you know, prove me wrong. I think that's probably what happened, but that's fine. I mean, I think that's great. And there's a line in the oh shit, what song is it in? I can't remember. But it basically goes, "This day will last 1,000 years if you let it."
Oh, I think that might be,
or if you want it, or something like that. I think is it Dawn? And then
Dawn, yeah.
yeah. And I was like, basically, if this wasn't as good as it is, that would be M. Night Shyamalan putting himself as the writer who saves the world. You know, like you know, writing an album about a whole day and then saying, "Oh, this day is gonna everyone's gonna dig this." But it was so good that line actually then just added poignancy, because this, you know, probably based on just my ear, probably became it's probably one of the most influential soundscapes ever in music. And yeah, like poetry, rock, blues, potentially music, you know, of today's standards a little bit. You know, of all the cinematic, like beautiful sweeping orchestral bits, there were some bits that really reminded me of like the Walter Murphy music from Family Guy when Peter has his like soundtrack.
God damn it! You stole my bit.
Oh shit! I'm so sorry. No, that's all right.
That, yeah.
I'll go. I'm so sorry. That's anyway, I loved it. Thank you very much for introducing me to, I'm definitely going to get the LP. I think it's very cool.
Adelaide.
I'm the odd one out here. I think every album I've just been like, wow, yeah, no one else agrees with me. Melissa's album, second verse, same as the first. I can't get into this isn't an era that I can really connect to. I think this is like if I wanted to watch Fantasia and Yellow Submarine at the same time. Or where I think there are these really no. It's Fantasia 2000, but every guest is the Beatles.
Listen,
Because it's
you don't need to hate on Fantasia 2000. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yes,
Fantasia does exist.
The humans are the
Fantasia
worst
2000
part
is
of it.
just fine. Yeah.
It is the really just beautiful orchestrations, and I can't get into classical music, but just the way that they go about it just takes over my soul. And then people start singing, and I just stop giving a fuck on the bar.
Oh no.
We lost Andrew.
We legit lost Andrew.
I thought he looked frozen.
I can't. I don't know what about it isn't clicking, because I think I'll start with an L. I think The Day Begins is one of the best singular pieces of music I've ever heard, and then it turns into a shitty 70s BBC documentary right at the end. I just don't get it. You ruined the music by having a random dude just walk into the studio, or Peak Hour. It the first half of it is the score to this big bustling New York City rom-com from the 60s. Doris Day is running around the streets with a bunch of dry clean sheets it takes to somebody. And then it's the B side of a decent Beatles album in the second half. And I can't connect. It's a fucking square peg in a round hole for me. The whole fucking album. And it's frustrating because I can see beautiful artistry in there. And then the British are coming, and why are they here?
Didn't we all basically all pick British people, apart from Olivia Rodrigo?
Yeah, Olivia Rodrigo's from California.
I forget where Griff is from, but yeah,
Griff's surely from London, isn't she? With that voice, I don't know.
I don't know.
Griff. To the Google.
Yeah, she's from Kings Langley.
Griff is from.
The Brits make good music.
They do.
According to Adelaide.
No. I just don't want to hear them do fucking narration.
Yeah.
I'm a band geek. This is right up my alley. I love the orchestral arrangements of it. I think Andy was talking about how when Peter makes the whistle, I wish I had my own theme music. That's absolutely inspired from this, because I think that this hits the notes of the day perfectly, even from the moment the day begins. You get that initial kind of grog sort of haze of that first 2 minutes of you waking up, and you're like what year is it, what's going on, and then you finally wake up, and it's it reminds me of Looney Tunes, or the intro to old Disney cartoons, that big wall of sound kind of deal. Then you get dawn, and it's the more kind of the drudge to work and whatnot. The morning is really cool. I think that Nintendo, specifically Zelda or the earlier Pokemon games, really got off of the sound, this kind of adventurous kind of walk through the woods of I wonder what we're going to find today. Lunch break is peak sort of 60s rock. You get that nice kind of fast sort of splash cymbal and whatnot. And there's this really, you get the hustle and bustle of lunch breaks, kind of similar to how the Eagles kind of do Life in the Fast Lane. Then the afternoon, I remember listening to it and I'm man, this is long. And then once I realized it was long, I think that's kind of the point for the afternoon, because the afternoon is meant to be this sort of grind, and it starts off slow, but then you realize, and then it kind of picks up as it goes on. And then the evening I really like is that it gets you excited for the night, and you get home from work and it's what are we doing today? And it's kind of a reprise of lunch break and how it kind of goes on. Going back to The Day Begins, I really like how it uses the motif of the knife, that, especially that big sort of melodic line. I thought that was really cool on second listen. But yeah, actually, there's Andrew. Andrew, is his internet still here? No. Oh no, Andrew. Oh, I wish you were here because I want to tell something. Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
You're back.
Internet just shut down at my place for some reason.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. No, I was just saying. I was saying your album is fucking incredible. Love the orchestration and the arrangement of it, and all the fun little beats of it. Yeah. Anything else to add before we get into scores, favorite, least favorite?
Yeah.
Andy.
I have a note that says, "Oh, the fucking gong." Because, right, Andrew, tell me this is true.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? It took 2 listens, but I think both Pink Floyd and this album have like 25 seconds of like nothingness, right? Very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so the final track after Nights, the like late evening, I can't remember what that's called. The late, I don't know what, like soliloquy or like I don't know what it's called. Whatever's after Nights, but not the track after Nights. It's like the chop at the end. It ends on a big gong, boom, and then it kind of pulls back. This big gong pulls back, and then I have to take that snippet and play it backwards, and maybe you'll be able to do it on your vinyl or whatever. I think it's how the album opens. It's the reverse of the gong. The new day starts. Tell me I'm right, that the day ends on a gong, right. And it's the reverse of the gong that starts the album off.
I think you're right. I'm not 100% on that, though.
It has to be, because it makes so much sense that then you start a new day. Mm-hmm. And the other note I had, I guess, was that midway through the afternoon when they mentioned Tuesday, or maybe not, like, I guess midway through the album, they're singing afternoon, and I didn't realize it was called like Tuesday afternoon in parentheses. Hadn't felt like a Tuesday to me up till that point. But that's all. That's all. I felt like it was a Saturday. Felt very lazy in the morning.
So I do want to say one more thing about this album, which is just kind of incredible. The lead vocalist and the main guitarist of this song, this was not their first album with the Moody Blues. So this was actually, after the original like Moody Blues kind of like started falling apart, this guy stepped in. So like, for this guy not to be the original lead singer of this group and just come in and just like completely steal like the way that the group would sound for like the rest of their careers, it's just at the age of 20, incredible.
Nuts. Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool.
All right.
Yeah, do you know what's interesting about his vocal? Just on a couple of things about like he's from Birmingham, I think, like right, Brummies. Most people wouldn't sing Satin like that, not in terms of the vowel sound, but like he hits the N early and pulls the N forward. Most people would go nights in white satin and then end on the N, but he kind of goes nights in white satin and does like the NG sound coming through, which is really interesting. It's almost like a warm-up, like a vocal warm-up. And then the other one I noticed was really clever, is to change the vowel sound of you in the I love you. He changes it from an oo sound the first time, and when he has to hit a higher note, he changes it to an R. He gets his like whole mouth open and goes, oh, I
do that every single time. I do that every single time I do this at karaoke.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so I thought that was good. That's like what you should do if you're a singer and you need to hit a higher note. And some vowel sounds are just horrible, e's and oo's and stuff. Like, so just you can take license with it and open up your mouth and make them in like an R sound, and it'll be fine. Very good. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, let's go down to favorite, least favorite, and scores. Start with Andrew.
You know, it's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10. I stand by that. That's why I have the fucking vinyl. My favorite is obviously The Night. As I've said, Nights in White Satin is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's like a top 5 song for me. And I had always been missing like the orchestral like crescendo at the end of any like radio version of it. Least favorite is hard. I guess I might go with. I guess I'm gonna go with Evening. It's just like the first one that pops in my head. I've got no real reason. So 10 out of 10. It's a perfect album. Y'all need to listen to this.
All right, I'll go next. Favorite is very tough. I'm torn between The Day Begins, The Morning, and The Afternoon. I'll go with The Morning. I really like I'd love to just kind of go for a walk to that song, through the woods, like kind of like I was mentioning earlier. Score 9.5. it's a great sort of start to finish album at any time of the day, really. I'm gonna grab my guitar as cover for my least favorite track. My least favorite track is The Night.
Oh, fuck.
And I know I was blown away by it. It's an incredible song in its own right. I totally understand why it's in the top 500, but in context of this album, I don't get the feeling that I'm out through the night. It's the one time where I'm taken away from the whole concept of the album, and I was very surprised when I came to that realization. We'll go to Adelaide next.
The album is a flat 7. I was leaning on a high 6, but I think there is enough great stuff here to push it up. I think The Day Begins is the best song because it has the least people singing. My least favorite is The Afternoon because I don't like to hear them singing the whole fucking song.
Andy.
Yeah, I think this is a 9.7, and it loses the 0.3 because no one should have a lazy Tuesday. Get up and go to work. And best song, I did write down that it kind of. I feel like I feel in myself that it would be a cheat to say "Day Begins" because it's kind of encompassing of the whole thing. Even though it was so beautiful. Oh my god. So I think Nights is like the default, and I think there was enough kind of. I don't know if Nights in White Satin on it. So if there's a single or a radio edit out there without the orchestral stuff pulling it, and I felt like it kind of this was like the Days of Future Past cut. It felt like it fit in all right. I did try and play around with the track listing to see what it would be like if you did the Memento version of the album. I think that's quite a cool idea. And then, like, to be honest with you, yeah, I think Evening track, if you sat it after Nights, fits better just like in terms of what they're trying to get you to feel. And then my least favorite track isn't a track in full. It's Evening part of Afternoon. I think it comes in weird. In Afternoon, I think Afternoon's a better song than it then becomes, and then the out into the actual Evening track, I think it makes Evening worse, if that makes sense. So the Evening part of the Afternoon track kind of it jars. It feels like it kind of goes like that. So I would sort of maybe chop that or change it. Put the Evening part of Afternoon after Evening, Evening after Nights, and it. Maybe more coherent, but this is an experiment, this concept album. So, what an effort! 9.7.
All right, and Melissa.
Yeah, this is a 10. This is like truly one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard. Yeah, I was like kind of blown away and speechless after listening to it. I was like, "Holy shit, Barr, okay."
It's
in
weird.
regard,
You almost never vote for me in Music League.
Well, sorry. I guess you're better with albums than singular songs. I don't know what to say. It's very difficult to figure out what's favorite versus least favorite because to me it's just it almost just feels like one song to me. Like because it just flows so well together. Let me look at the list here. I'll say Dawn is a Feeling because we haven't really talked about that one.
Yeah, cool.
I love the vocals. I think they're gorgeous. So I'll give that one a shout. But again, I just think all of it's great. And then least favorite, I'll just say The Night because it means the album's done.
All right, so that cut pretty much wraps up the show. We'll get into favorite albums that you heard that weren't yours, I guess. I'll start off with mine. Days of Future Past by far hits everything that I love about music. The mix of like 60s rock and orchestra, I think is a great time, and it fits the theme that it's going for. Andrew.
I Ooh, this is hard. I guess I'm gonna go with Meddle. It is another one where just like the album as a whole really, really comes together.
Okay. Melissa.
Yeah, I'm sure it's no surprise. It's Days of Future Past. Yeah, I guess I like classic rock.
Andy.
Yeah, same. Days of Future Past. And my score would be a 9.8 if anyone has a reversing app and can confirm that gong thing. I need to know. I need to know.
And Adelaide.
I'm a pop girly at heart. I have to pick Sour.
Hey, we got one.
So good.
I was hoping that we'd get another Hall of Fame inductee, but okay.
All right. I unfortunately have to jet. I have to head off here to work. But while I take off, Andrew, why don't you let us know what albums are coming up next week? Thank you, everybody, for coming on. It was a great time chatting. Cheers and drive safe.
Thanks, Brooklyn.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So next episode, we have a good collection for you. So the panel is going to be consisting of myself, Brooklyn, recurring guests, Amaru Moses, and Bill Carriola, and singer, songwriter, personal friend of mine, friend of the show. We're going to have Ray Raddick on. It's going to be great to have someone her opinions on these albums. Those albums being The Cool by Lupe Fiasco, James Taylor's Greatest Hits, Simpatico by Velocity Girl, Screen
Bill.
Violence. Yeah, it is. Screen Violence by Churches, and Not for Sale by Cardinal Official. So tune in next month. This has been such a great episode. Thank you all for coming on. We really appreciate it, you guys. And for Brooklyn, everyone, keep on rocking.